Is it possible for you to manifest your dream life with Mary Jane? Well, I think it is. But first and foremost, we have to get past the word manifest and manifestation in terms of what society and in large part has kind of conditioned us to look at the word, So like a historical version of myself, I would look at the word manifest and hear someone say manifest, and I'm immediately envisioning like people, with aluminum foil on their head and doing little, weird dances and making magic, if you will. But if you look at the root of manifest, it means to display, essentially. And it comes from, I believe, the Latin word manifestus, which does typically mean made visible. When you look at the most recent science of, the consciousness and space-time and the science of this reality, the leading thought is that everything is consciousness or quantum, and what we experience is the projection of that. We only take in a small fraction of the quote-unquote reality that we inhabit on a moment-to-moment basis, and there's reason for that. So in reality, we are always manifesting, and you may be aware of that. So really, it's a matter of tuning what we're manifesting, and there's layers to that. I was gonna do a video today about cannabis shame and having shame around our usage with cannabis, being conditioned to have that, in our history. But I was walking out to the park and I was like, you know what, dude, I want to talk about manifestation. It's been something that I've been focused on for a while. When I first came across The Secret, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe there's something there. There was a lot of it that sounded incredibly far out and woo-woo and not real to me, but I was intrigued, right? And then going along the road, I started realizing that there are countless people of the past, impactful leaders, impactful people of our time on this planet, that there's roots of manifestation in what they attribute their success, to. And when I say roots of manifestation, more like the art of manifestation, right? So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is a great example of this. It's one of the top self-help books of all time. But when you look at the principles of that, if you were to go to AI and say, summarize the principles of Think and Grow Rich and take a little look at that, it's going to look a little bit woo-woo. It's, certain things that it talks about where you're like, come on, man, what is this, right? But you look at the depth of conditioning, and television, broadcasting, how all of the news puts people in a fear state. Most of the content you see on the interwebs it's clouded with fear mongering or judgment, gossip, worry, or anger, outrage. Not to say that there isn't a space for mindful creators, there certainly is, and that's a growing thing, but society's kind of been set up this way to keep us from recognizing our power, right, with our mind. Me being historically a very analytical, logical thinker, just the straight up metaphysics of, what you focus on grows, and if you envision a thing, it'll come to manifest and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's not real, but what I know is real is that aligned thoughts and states of being create aligned output. Behavioral psychology shows something to the effect of our beliefs dictate our thoughts, which dictate our actions, which then dictate our results, right? So, can you manifest with Mary Jane? A lot of the people that have found my content in the past are people who might feel stuck with Mary, right? They enjoy the benefits of it, but there's certain aspects of their life that they think might be being clouded by the cannabis, right? So for someone that's in that space, like a historical version of myself, depending on your depth of thought and history, is it going to be as easy as just journaling a certain affirmation for 30 days and now it's real? Not necessarily. There's layers to this stuff. So like when I first started working on in my journey, my self-development, I recognized a lot of these root principles, and I focused on my belief in self, my love for myself, central nervous system regulation and all those things. And I found massive benefit in that, and being able to help others with their journey, doing the same thing, and seeing massive benefit in that. But the areas related to your subconscious belief in, what is possible for you, or what kind of income next bracket is possible for you, all these things, man, that shit is deep. And there is unconscious shame that correlates to that, but I'm going to save the bulk of that for another video. So yeah, it's like, back to the start of the video, can you manifest with Mary? Yes, because you're always manifesting no matter what you do. Like when you look at the root of it, can you tune your trajectory with cannabis to where you start experiencing more aligned opportunities and trajectory of career or relationships in your life? Fucking A, right, you can, right? There's, again, nuance to this too, the levels, how much we take in. I was hearing someone talk about if you smoke, I think it was like an ounce every 2 days, or hell, even a quarter a day, or whatever it is, that could be a lot. There could be some benefit in working to table that back, not full abstinence, but, working to table that back and make adjustments, But if you're someone that, maybe it's 3.5 or an eighth or whatever every couple days, 3 days or something like that, but you're focused on what really matters, the autonomy over your thought and the cultivation of emotional resilience in your central nervous system, that's the shit. When I talk to my clients, I often go back to your true value going forward, your true impact, your true sense of self, your true everything is correlated with your unique IP and EQ. And so IP is your intellectual property, and your EQ is your emotional intelligence. Intellectual property, your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom, all those things, and emotional intelligence, your emotional resilience, your ability to be present with someone, the depth of your empathy, how deep have you gone into the road of letting go, which is another concept that's in alignment with all these areas of thought, and do hold massive value. This idea, or does hold massive value, because in large part what ails us from manifesting the life we desire with cannabis is related to these conditioned aspects of the self that have kept us constricted, right? So it's all about depth. I'll wrap up with this. I oftentimes will say, maybe for people that haven't been through a lot in their life, things are very simple. Their upbringing is very simple. Call it what it is. Maybe they're a little bit gullible, and no offense if any of this aligns with you. But there's just less that's happened, less deeply embedded neural networks and neural pathways that contrast what you truly desire. Someone like this, maybe if you just tell them, hey, all you gotta do is tell yourself, I'm so thankful that I generate $50,000 a month easily and effortlessly. It's such a breeze, right? And you do a few other grounding practices, and then fucking within a few months, bam, or maybe even sooner, who knows, right? But if you've got a lot of shit, not necessarily like big shit, but just like for me, it was a shit ton of emotional manipulation from my father, and God rest his soul these days. I'm more closer to him now that he's on the other side than ever. Not to say that it couldn't have happened, but it happened the way it needed to happen. But someone who, there's more to uncover, there's more to let go, there's more to retrain, there's more to rewire with limiting thoughts and these deeper aspects of ourself, to get on board with that true believing at the depth of our core, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. And Disney, I think it's Disney with, it's not seeing is believing, it's believing is seeing, I know this shit to be true, and I've been working on my journey with, my core beliefs around all these areas of my life for a good couple years now, 3 years now. And I started my, self-development journey maybe 5 years ago, but it really kicked into gear about 3.5 years ago, I'd say. And so I've come a long way with a lot of these aspects of myself, but I'm still going, right? The cannabis does not hold me back at all. It would have held me back 6 years ago version of self, or 4 years ago version of self, when I really still had a whole bunch of stuckness, stagnation in the mind and the body, all these loops, right? But these days, it's more like a spiritual lubricant. And I think I've mentioned that on another video. In the past, non-dogmatic thought, cannabis for centuries and ages was utilized and revered as a spiritual lubricant, a spiritual plant. And so, yeah, you know, my core theme that I bring to the table, which I know I'm not the only person that speaks about this, my brother Ryan Sprague talks about it. You know, when these deeper aspects of the self come forward in our relationship with cannabis or around it, it's not that the cannabis is creating it, it's that the cannabis is bringing it to the surface for you to do something with. But most of us have been conditioned to go, you know, get it together, you got to go to work, you know. And I'm not saying you got to work, right? But like, quick redirect, just stuff it down, just keep going, you know. But the better route is to really utilize cannabis as your teacher and have foundational practices, make shifts in your foundational practices, your rituals, your daily experience, and what you do with your life and your routines, you know, what you give your focus to, what comes in, what goes out. That shit is important. And if it would be of help, if any of this resonates with you, I have a guide that I put a lot of heart and soul into that really goes over the grounded or the foundational framework that I work with anybody that I begin to work with in these areas, any private clients. And yeah, man, I spent a lot of time on it, and there's been a little bit like, oh man, I gotta add this. I realize you can't add everything, so it was originally gonna be like a 3-page thing. It's probably more like 9 or 10 or something like that. I'm actually revising it and uploading it alongside of this video, so it'll be there live. But yeah, dude, this is my passion. The introspection and the expansion of consciousness, and fuck, even the idea of UAPs and Bigfoot might be out here in these woods, by the way. I don't know, you know. That's a different area of thought. But I hope this resonates, and thanks for hanging out with me today.